What is up, everyone? My name is Chris Fanzon. You are listening to the Hidden Doors podcast. Upcoming is my conversation with Lynn. She's the host of a YouTube channel. It's called Lynnventure, and she talks about helping you master emotions, money, and health. And we have a conversation about all the stuff that she's doing. I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you do, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so already, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on more videos, podcasts coming down like this. I hope you enjoy. So, thank you for coming on here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So you run a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. I do. I have a couple actually. So I started out with one. And if I talk too much, just stop me and redirect me, okay?
Oh no, the more you talk, the better.
Okay. So I started out with one because a lot of times people are like, oh, you should share this, or this is important, or this is great, or whatever. And so I started really to document things about me and things I believed and things I thought were important for my children. So I did that for like a year, and I had like 75 videos, and I had a great time. Like, I loved it. And then I decided to start on a weight loss journey because I had some problems with my health. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I had high blood pressure and stuff like that. So I thought, oh, well, let's do it on YouTube. So then I created a new channel, and then I did that. So that would be considered at this point my main channel. But in the middle of all this, I had something else happen, which is in the beginning of my weight loss process, I was yawning like a ton. And I was reading up about it, and I guess like you actually lose most of your weight out of your mouth, which most people don't realize that. We expel carbon dioxide, which actually carries the fat in it. And I don't know the science of it, whatever, but I thought it was really interesting. And so I did a video about me yawning and how interesting that was related to my weight loss, stuff like that. Well, it got so much action. And people kept backing up and watching me yawn over and over again. And I'm like, well, what is going on here? This is the weirdest thing. So I thought, okay, well, if people want to watch me yawn, shoot, I'll make a channel about me yawning. So I created a channel, and it was called The Yawning Channel. And I would yawn on camera and have like my husband yawn on camera and other people I know yawn on camera. And it was really fun. And it took off really fast.
Just a yawning channel.
Just yawning. That's all we did is yawn. And like, I'm getting subscribers fast. I'm getting tons of views. Like, it was active. And I was like, okay, well, this is great, And then people started saying things to me. Well, apparently there is a yawning fetish, which I did not know. So people were logging on to watch all of us yawn as like a fetish. Well, I'm not really about that. So I grappled with it for a little while because I'm thinking, well, all my content, I have no control over what people are using it for, right?
Yeah.
You put it out there and that's it, right? But I just couldn't sit with that. And so I took that channel down. And so that was another channel. And then I had another channel that you might be interested in this because of a lot of the messages that you have. It is talking about like positive affirmations for working moms. So just say I would say something related to some kind of word, like strong, we're strong. And then I would tell a story about something in my life where I behaved strongly. And then, I would talk about that. So I had a channel that did that. So I've had a variety of channels.
So
but my main channel.
4 channels overall. So you had 4 channels overall.
Let's see, that's 4. I feel like there was one more in there. Anyway, but my main channel is my weight loss channel. Yeah.
Nice.
So I lost 75 pounds, and this year, and I reversed my type 2 diabetes. And this year, 2022, I'm just planning on maintaining my weight loss because I don't know in your world, but in my world, I see people who lose weight. They can lose a ton of weight, 50, 75, 100 pounds, but they cannot keep it off. They just bounce right back again, which means they really haven't fully accepted the new lifestyle. So I'm trying to really just double down and stay at this weight for a year. Then I'll readjust and drop the rest of my weight in like 2023. So anyway,
Well,
your question
congrats.
was about my YouTube channel. Yes, I have a YouTube channel, and I've had a few, and I love it. I feel like it just really gives me an opportunity to express myself, and yeah, I love doing YouTube. But I'm massively slowing down this year because oh wait, I just lost you. Oh, there you are. I'm really slowing down this year because my YouTube channels don't do great, and it's a lot of effort and a lot of time. And so I've appreciated it for my personal enjoyment, but I don't think I'm gonna be doing it as much going forward.
So how many videos do you post currently?
Well, now I'm not really posting any videos. Now, oh, yeah, this was another one I did. I forgot. This was good too. This was a lot of fun too. Yeah, I have a great time doing this. Anyway, I did another one that was called Granny Reads, where I had people read on camera their favorite children's books with their children as the audience.
Mm.
And I felt that doing that, I would need to get the publisher's permission to be able to be using their books publicly, because in theory I could have made money off of it. And so I wrote to all of the publishers, but I never got a positive response. And so I kind of stopped that one. So that would be 5 channels.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you never monetized any of your YouTube channels
Mm-mm.
because it didn't get big enough, or you just didn't want to?
Yeah, it didn't get big enough.
Got it.
The Granny Reads, I couldn't get permission. The fetish one I dropped.
Yeah.
My current one, it's not going anywhere. So
Yeah. But it taps into your creative side, right?
yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I get like to express myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not a creative person like that. No one would describe me that way. I'm highly analytical and logical. So to be developing that side of me has been really fun. Mm-hmm.
How many, like, when you're full force doing this, how many hours a week are you putting into it, you think?
Oh, let's see, probably 20 most of the time. So for probably 2 years, I published on my main channel every day. I did daily
That's a lot.
videos.
How long were your videos?
Well, so I've done a few different genre, right, of videos. So I've done daily vlogging, and those are usually like 12 to 18 minutes. And then I've done what I eat in a day, and those are, whatever, 8 to 12 minutes. And then if I do topic videos, it might be 4 to 7 minutes, something like that.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one a day is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of
the
research.
Thumbnails. You got to create the damn thumbnails.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Yeah, mm-hmm. There's a lot to it. People don't know how much work there is to it.
How did you? I saw your thumbnails. Your thumbnails look pretty cool. How did you? Did that evolve over time? My thumbnails in the beginning were like horrible. Now, like, they're average. But how did you develop yours?
So okay, so there's like kind of a long history for this too. So I did my own thumbnails for the longest time, and I was getting good. I even took a class, a Photoshop class, so that I could get them even better. And I was spot on. I am digging these thumbnails. Oh man, this is great. And then I had someone reach out to me, and he said, "Hey, I will do your thumbnails for you for a set rate each month." And I'm like, "Oh, how much is it?" He told me. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, we'll give that a try." So he started doing thumbnails for me, and I look back at mine, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not sure what happened, but these look like a kindergartner made them." They were mine. When I looked back, which I had thought they were so great, they were not great at all. So I actually have someone do my thumbnails for me now. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're saying that yours were like a kindergartner?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
the ones that I felt so strongly about, and I thought they were so fantastic. They actually look like a kindergartner made them.
Did it make a difference though? Like when I say difference, did it make a difference in the because there's 2 metrics, right? There's one that's like I think it's impression view through. It's some kind of thing where
click through impression
it's click. So like once they
or
see the
click through.
thumbnail,
Yeah.
do they
Click
click?
through rate. Yeah.
Okay,
CTR.
so were they clicking through more often with the new thumbnails?
So that's a difficult one to answer in a way. Like my click through is decent, but it's hard to know because you're always getting exposed to new customers, right? So my regular base that watches basically no matter what I put out, they're going to watch. They click anything. Like I just did a live last Wednesday on time blocking, and all I'm doing, this is what you see. This background, me. That's it. That's what the thumbnail is, and I have just as many clicks on that as one of the better thumbnails because of this little group who just watches whatever I put out. But if it goes to a larger audience, so if the video does well enough and it goes to a larger audience, that's when you can tell the difference of whether it's a decent thumbnail or not. The other thing too is you've got a few variables, right? It has to be given to the right audience. The thumbnail has to be good enough. The title has to be good, intriguing, interesting, a topic they're interested in, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You probably know that because you do it too. So is your podcast also on a podcast site or is it just on YouTube?
For now, I keep it on YouTube. Eventually, my thinking is this. It like takes time and organizational skills and like paying companies in order to like get the feeds to send it to all these podcast platforms.
Yeah.
And there's no one there's not thousands of people of listening to this. So I figured to do all that effort right now seemed like a waste of time. If it builds up and we get a lot of people demanding, then we'll just download the audio files and send over. But for me at the moment, YouTube just seemed like the path of least resistance.
Yeah. I would agree with that. That was good.
Yeah. It was a lot of learning how to set up a podcast though.
I'm sure. Yeah. We export some of my when I go live, we export the audio and put it on a podcast site.
You do? Got it.
Yeah. I haven't done it lately because I've been doing many long lives, but I have in the past. I think I've got like 25 on there or something.
Got it. Do you find that the podcast platforms in and of themselves get organic traffic to watch the podcast, or do you have a lot of work?
No, that's what they do is organic traffic.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is like, how do you compete with all these podcasts that like have millions of views and you're just brand new? No one even knows you. There's no views on it. And you're just posting randomly not randomly, but you're posting, but no one watches even like, there's not thousands and thousands watching your YouTube channel.
Right.
So like, it just seemed like a very hard thing to get.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't had any real success there, but I do it anyway, because part of it's learning skills. You got to learn new skills. You got to be like upgrading your skill set and stuff and trying new things. And,
that's true.
I've tried shorts. I go live. I do regular length videos. Like I've tried lots of different things for my channels.
What about like TikTok?
So I have a TikTok and I've had some success there, right? Like, I might put out a video and I'll get probably the highest one I have is like 800 views, which on TikTok's nothing, right? Like a lot of views, a lot of things you can post it and within a day you've got, hundreds of thousands of views. So it kind of depends on how it hits or how it lands or whatever. But yeah, I've done TikTok as well, just with my main channel. So most of my stuff is off my main channel because that's what I focus most of my energy on. Well, a lot of the other ones just didn't work out for one reason or another.
So let's talk about the main channel then. It's weight loss focused, right?
Yeah.
What initially got you to the stage of like wanting to start the weight loss specific channel?
Well, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, and I'm a healthy person. And so a healthy person can't possibly have type 2 diabetes. Like those two things don't go together. But in my mind, I'm a healthy person. I've always said, oh yeah, I've got great health. And, how somehow we always end up answering those questionnaires about, how would you rate your health? Poor, average, good, or whatever. And I always said my health was good. So it was a disconnect for me. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I better do something different here because I'm not going to have type 2 diabetes. So I did a bunch of research about type 2 diabetes, which is my way, right? I'm an analyst. And so I did a bunch of research, and basically the bottom line is that carbs are what the enemy to diabetes. And so I kind of started just eliminating carbs and stuff. So then I decided, well, I'll just do it on YouTube. I had already been on YouTube, so that I'll do a weight loss thing, which I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how much competition there was. I just didn't know anything, right? Because it's, even though I had already been doing YouTube for a year, that was a whole new thing. So so that's how I ended up doing it. I'm doing my weight loss journey on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a funny thing. I would have said the same thing with my health. I would have said I'm in great health, but my thing, I didn't have diabetes, but for like 10 or more years, I had excruciating heartburn.
Oh.
And I did like you. I feel like I'm a very analytical person. So I read like a few books about how your body interacts with food and how to eat healthy. And I was like, oh shit, I'm eating horribly. And I changed. There was like this 30-day diet I did.
Mm-hmm.
Changed my diet. Heartburn gone. It's just the food in this world, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm actually surprised that. I'm just surprised that how ignorant some people are with the crap in this food, in the food that we eat. Like you go to Stop and Shop, and if you go to Stop and Shop, you pick out Raisin Bran. You think, oh, that's great. And then you look at the back, and it's like the worst stuff is in this Raisin Bran. It's just like, what? How is this food industry like operating? That's like putting chemicals in our food.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And then two is like the food industry is designing literally food. I read this book. It's the food industry designing food to hit this bliss point, which is like a perfect mixture of fat, sugar, and salt. And do they really care?
Texture, crunchiness, smoothness. Like literally, they have a whole food science that
and that's not like that's not like a chef. That's not a chef in the back. Like if I heat it to this, it's like if I put this chemical, that doesn't work. If I put it, they're putting chemicals, and then you eat it, and it tastes so good, and you eat more and more and more and more and more because the bliss point is very interesting. Right. The bliss point isn't like there's a point of diminishing returns. So if you have too much of something, and you have like let's say a little bag of Doritos, and you are full and don't want any more, then you won't buy any more or eat any more Doritos. But they make it so good, and then not enough to the point where it satisfies you that you want more. And so you're just going after it. And so I learned a lot that the food that we eat and the people who are putting these you see a lot of these advertisements. That's not like, most of them are not really great stuff. Like orange juice to me is just literally sugar water. Like an orange is good for you because of the actual vitamins in the fiber in the orange. But if you squeeze all the juice out, you're just eating like sugar. You're just drinking sugar water, really. You might have a little bit of vitamins, but most of it's in the. So it's just a lot of my preconceptions about food were distorted and wrong, and the consequence was I had a really bad time with my heartburn, and it was horrible. I went to doctors. I tried Prilosec over years and years and years, and then nothing worked. And then I read a book. Boom, changed how my heartburn completely. So that was my experience, and I've talked about it a lot on this podcast. But that was my experience with food. I don't know. Did you go through like a similar thing where you're like, oh my god, this is
not really? Just because, like, when I started having kids, I was very concerned about what kinds of foods that they were eating. And so I kind of started learning then more about foods. So, for example, one of the ones is a lot of moms will give their kids like yogurt or Go-Gurt or things like that. And I would look at it and I'd be like, this is basically a candy bar. They're giving their kids a candy bar and they're calling it like breakfast. And then, so I didn't do that. And then when the kids were little, do you have kids?
I have one daughter, 8 months old.
Oh, okay. Well, they love to go, and who knows now with COVID, but they like to go to like, McDonald's Playland or Carl's Jr. Playland and just play on the things and eat their lunch or whatever. And so I would feed them at home and then go to the McDonald's Playland and buy them like an ice cream cone, which is pure chemicals, right? And so they eat the ice cream cone and play on the Playland and stuff. So I've been pretty conscious about what they've eaten for years. And then one of my older kids, when they were just say in fourth or fifth grade, their teacher was talking about she was not going to eat sugar for a year, and she was kind of doing this thing with her sister, and then they were going to pay each other like $100 or something like that. So he came home and he said, "Hey, if I didn't eat sugar for a year, would you pay me $100?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So he says, "Okay, so I'm going to do that." So the next morning, he gets up and he eats like a bowl of sugar-ish cereal, not, which there's a range, right? There's a range of cereal that would be considered like healthy and just pure sugar and junk, right? So it was somewhere in there. And I said, "Okay, well, we got to kind of tighten this up because this isn't going to work because that is sugar, right?" And so we drilled down to no sugar in the first three ingredients. And so for years, our standard at the house was no sugar in the first three ingredients. So we didn't have anything in the house
Nice.
like that, right? So you're reading a lot of labels, and you determine at the store there's very few things that are sold and marketed, packaged, that have no sugar in the first three ingredients. So we did that for a lot of years. And now I've forgotten exactly what you asked me. Oh, if I went through a thing. Okay. So then we did that for a lot of years at lots of Whole Foods, like that.
Yeah.
But then when I got the diagnosis with the diabetes, the big difference for me was portion size, right? Like I was way off on my portion size. So even though I was eating whole foods, I was eating way, way too much whole foods. And I had to drill that way back.
Got
so,
it.
Yeah.
The sugar thing.
Yeah.
The sugar thing, I wonder, it's an interesting thing. I would replace the whole no eating sugar with anything. Anytime I want to eat sugar, I eat a fruit, because a fruit's like the natural sugar where you're not going to like get bombarded with crap.
Yeah, the thing is, like, for me with the diabetes thing, which I've reversed it and stuff, but I would assume that anytime if I were to go back to eating that way, I would have a problem. So for me now, like if I want something sweet, I actually have something sweet, because a fruit in a lot of ways will behave the same way in my body as a sweet. And I don't necessarily feel satisfied with fruit, but I would feel satisfied if I had like, 100-calorie little Snickers bar or something like that, which isn't my go-to, but I'm just saying when you have to weigh those two things out, you got to choose. A little
Snicker bar is not going to kill you.
It's not going to kill you, but it could satisfy you.
Yeah, I'm saying you don't go, if you're really craving and you want to, like, for some reason go hard, a handful of grapes may be better than a handful of Snicker bars.
Absolutely.
One Snicker bar, every once in a while have some nice chocolate. You got to get some enjoyment out of life every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
What did you study to learn about all of this stuff in food, like the health in food and everything, the ingredients? Like most people, I feel like most people don't.
Long time ago when I first started on this. So when my kids were first being born, and then when I was pregnant with one of my kids, I was exposed to the idea of anything in a mylar bag. So anything that has like foil on the inside, you stay away from that because it's going to be highly processed. The difference between processed foods and whole foods. But at this point, I was already canning and bottling and freezing and making my own stuff. Like I make my own homemade ranch dressing, like Italian seasoning. You know how you get the mixes in the store in their little packets. So I just went online and got the recipe for that. So I make my own Italian seasoning, my own taco seasoning, and stuff like that. So I was already doing a lot of that stuff anyway. So I don't remember. It's going to be too long ago, and it would have been too much of a process as I went along to remember. Yeah.
You didn't read a book or anything, I guess is what I'm saying.
I might have. Yeah, I could have, but I couldn't tell you what it is right now or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah.
There was like a few books that like just
for me. But it's probably pretty recent for you, whereas mine's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. It was maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
What was for you the hardest thing about starting even in the beginning, starting a YouTube channel? Like, if someone else is looking to start one, like, what were the main things that you learned along the way?
Well, let's see. Well, I needed better tech skills. My tech skills weren't as good as they are now. Like they're much much better now. So that'd be one thing. But like a lot of people who start YouTube channels, they're younger, so they grew up with tech. Like I grew up without the internet. I was just talking to my husband right now. It won't be many years, and people alive will have always known having the internet. But so
Yeah.
I did. So I just had a lot of learning curves. There's a lot of technical elements of it, like like I said, I do Photoshop and
Photoshop is pretty good. Like, I don't even know how to use Photoshop.
yeah, Photoshop's good. And then what's the Premiere Pro, which is what I do the video editing in. So I got Photoshop and Premiere Pro. Plus, even like when I started, I couldn't even turn my camera on or off, and I couldn't get how you have the data card in the reader. I didn't know how to get this thing out of the camera. So I had to learn how to get this thing out of the camera, put it into the thing, put it into my USB port, learn how to, I had a huge learning curve because I just didn't know any of that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
cameras, like I've got probably 4, 5, 6 cameras, and I can learn how to use all the cameras. And yeah. So
do you have different angles? Do you have different angles shooting you at different times?
Sometimes I do. Yeah. Sometimes like I'll set up a camera over here at 75, and then I'll have the camera that I'm facing. Also, I've had like if I do a weight loss journey video with a guest, then I'll have probably 3 angles, like one on her, one on me, one on us, or something like that. So there's been a big learning curve, but you don't need to do all that, right? If you're going to literally now, one of the things that they say in the YouTube world is your camera that you own, your phone, that's enough. You can do almost anything on here. So you don't have to get that big into it, but
yeah.
So I'd say that was probably the biggest learning curve. And plus I don't know things, like I don't know, like I had a YouTube channel before I had Facebook. Like I was not online. And one of the things that people say to me is, well, who do you follow or what do you watch or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, nothing, and one of the things they say is you have to draw people in who are like you and who watch the same things as you and are interested in the same things. And so I had to kind of spend some time paying attention to what I was interested in to then try to provide that kind of content to the people who might watch. One of the things that I've been surprised about is I really expected, middle-aged women to be watching me, but well over half of my viewers are male, and I never would have anticipated that. So a lot of my content is very geared towards like wife, mother, woman kind of stuff, and it makes me think, now what are these guys seeing in this? Like what? And so I don't even now, I've been doing it for a few years now, and I still don't even have a good pulse on what's what, which is part of the reason why I'm not doing well, right? These are some things that I'm supposed to know, and I still can't quite figure it out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that doesn't mean you're not doing well. The one metric you're probably thinking about right is like subscriber count.
Yeah, views, average view duration. My average view duration is pretty good. Like I'm 40 to 60%, which is good. And yeah, views, subscribers. Like I've been doing this long enough now where there should be a lot more people engaging with my content than are, and which means I'm just not hitting it, right? Like I'm not hitting the mark. So like I told you, I've had all these channels. Well, I had a big idea. So I know that when we kind of chatted before, one of the things that I had said is that I'm really strong in household level personal finance. So I had considered doing a channel on that.
Oh, we got to talk about that.
Okay. All right. And then the other thing I have been very interested in for years is domestic violence, issues about domestic violence. And as you know, with COVID, one of the big problems that people have had is that domestic violence related calls to the police have just like skyrocketed. And so I thought, years ago, I thought, well, when I get enough money, I'm going to buy billboard space, like on the freeways, and I'm going to put up ads related to domestic violence, public health education, to kind of like educate people, like what is domestic violence and stuff. So then I fast forward a little bit and I'm thinking, okay, well, clearly I'm not going to do billboards anymore. Now I'm going to put something like on Facebook or something like that. And then fast forward a little bit more and I'm like, I'm on YouTube. It seems like maybe if I was going to do something with domestic violence, maybe I do it on YouTube. So that's like another thing I've considered, is doing domestic violence kind of thing on YouTube. So anyway, I've always got like a new idea in my cooker, and if I can really figure out like how to reach people and how to drill it down enough to be able to know who my audience is and know what they're interested in hearing and things like that, then I would do that. So I have those two things kind of in the cooker, just in the back of my mind. I shouldn't say I haven't done anything about it. I actually, for the finance channel, I wrote up probably 7 to 10 scripts of different topics that I would do. So I'm a little bit further along on that one. Anyway, yeah.
That was a bit, I was gonna say that would be the first one I'd try, is the finance one.
Oh,
YouTube,
yeah.
I think like finance, I think it's just like, I don't know if it's because of the people who like it or YouTube thinks people like it, but YouTube. When I had like one finance short, I don't talk everything about finance, but I had one, and like my shorts get like, if I get 200 views, it's like a good short.
Yeah.
This one was like 2,000 out of nowhere, and it was just something about finance, and it really wasn't that informative.
What was it? What did you say? What was it about?
I don't even remember. It probably was like, probably like 5 things to keep in mind for investing, and I forget which ones they were, but it was like, and it was probably like one was like, just put your money in index funds. It was something like that. There was 5 things, but I forget exactly. But it got really good, and I'm not like 100% dedicated just to finance. So I didn't like completely capitalize on it, which might be a mistake, but we'll see. But yeah, if you're really good into the finance section, I feel like that would be a really good channel.
Okay, well, I'll take that into consideration.
I hear that a lot too. It's like just a couple of my comments were like, yeah, finance tends to work really well for me. I think it's a really good avenue to go down. What, first of all, if you don't mind me asking, you can just speak very generally about it. Do you have a career outside of this YouTube stuff?
So I'm a wife and mother first, right? That's my big thing.
Yeah.
I worked doing research for the state and federal government for 25 years, and I retired, and I have a pension. So that's my work background. I have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. So I was a worker for years, and I have all these kids. So when one of my older kids, I went to my boss and I said, hey, so this would have been in like 1994. I went to my boss and I'm like, it was a part-time job. And I'm like, I just can't do this. I just don't want to do it. But I had taken it because it was with a really good benefit package. And so I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. And she said, well, why don't you telecommute? And I said, well, what is that? And she's like, well, we'll set you up with a telephone and a computer at home. You just work from home. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give that a try. So I did. And at this time, we're talking dial-up, right? This is the very beginning stages of any of that kind of stuff. And nobody knew what telecommuting was. Now it's nothing. Everybody does it now, And so I just worked from home for like the next 20-something years and then I retired. So I worked half-time from home for all those years. And then I was just with my family and like that. So yeah, that was my career outside of, but it was really a side thing. So I have this group of women who I go to dinner with once a month and have for 20-something years. And somewhere along here in my career, I went on one of our monthly nights and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe this is the most awesome thing. You are sitting in the presence of a published author. I have an article in a professional journal and I'm so excited. I'm kind of sharing it with them. And they're like, oh, what do you do for work again? Because it was such a low thing on my list of things that I liked or enjoyed or talked about. They didn't even really know what it was that I did for work. So, but yes, I did have a career. Yeah.
I only asked because it seemed like you were very on top of things. You seemed sharp and analytical, and
Oh,
you like to
yeah,
like dig. It
yeah,
seems like you're a
yeah.
digger. Like you'd be a good
Mhm.
private investigator.
Yes, yes, I can totally see that. Right, right. Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. What about personal finance do you talk about?
Um, let's see. Okay, you got to ask me a more specific question than that. So, I have helped people get out of debt. I help people with their budgets. I give people general investing advice, nothing specific, but general investing advice.
What is your general investing advice? Let's see if we're aligned with this.
Okay, so my general investing advice is built on me being a consumer for years, right? Buying groceries for years and years. And I always say it's about my grocery shopping experience. So I always say when butter's on sale, buy 20, right? Because at the grocery store, I would watch the ads, and when butter was on sale, I'd buy a ton of it because I'd rather buy butter at $1.99 than at $3.99. So I kind of use the same exact philosophy with the stocks. When a stock's on sale, buy 20, right? When butter's on sale, buy 20. So
Hmm.
like the old adage of buy low, sell high, it still remains today. So I
Got
drill
it.
down to a handful of stocks that I'm interested in, and then I get to know them very well, and I just trade them. When they go down, I buy more. Like we just had a dip, like whatever 7 or 8 trading days ago or something, and so I was buying because butter was on sale.
Hmm.
That's kind of my general investing advice. I also, um, so I told that exact same thing to my girlfriend, and she said, okay, well then it would never work for me because I buy butter whenever I need it. I don't wait till it's on sale. So I think a part of it is patience. You have to be willing to exercise some patience. Mm-hmm. And then also, I guess another piece of investing advice I would give is unless you really know what you're doing, let somebody else do it. You literally one of the things you said to get into you get into a S&P 500 tracker kind of stock and just put it in there. And if you can't even figure that out, like if you can't figure out how to make your own account online, or you don't know anything about, like if you don't even know what a ticker symbol is or something, let somebody else do it, because there's a decent enough learning curve there that you probably don't want to start from scratch. You certainly don't want to start from scratch with any of your like retirement money or money that you actually need for something later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely takes a little time to understand because it's a little more complicated.
That's what
Like
I'm
like
saying. Yeah.
the
Well, you
levels
have.
of tax
I was going to
implications.
say
Like,
tax implication. Yeah.
do you
Mm-hmm.
do a 401k or like a
Mm-hmm.
Roth, or
Mm-hmm.
do you just put it in your standard account? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have kids? Do you put it in a 529 account?
Mm-hmm.
And what are those tax implications? And
Mm-hmm.
then within
Mm-hmm.
them, do you
Mm-hmm.
use
Yeah,
like
it's just a lot.
stocks or
Mm-hmm.
bonds? It's like it could get a little
Mm-hmm.
complicated.
It gets extremely complicated. Like when you know it like the back of your hand, you spit it out. But like that's a really big learning curve there. Really, really big learning curve. Mhm.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, like one of the things that people don't take into consideration, I believe enough, is human behavior. Right? Like human behavior makes a big difference. So I just went to this like seminar thing, and the guy was saying you're always better off creating your own personal Roth in like a brokerage account. Which I mean, I use the word brokerage account, and people might not even know what that is, right? But you make your own personal Roth in a brokerage account. If you put it in a like an S&P 500 tracker, right? You'll do fine. Let it sit there 15, 20, 30 years. You're going to do fine, right? But if you don't have enough personal discipline to fund that Roth each year, you are better off letting the employer do it in a 401k, because they'll just pull it right out of your check. So I always think a lot of it has more to do with, like, what I always say is I put a barrier between me and my money, right? I always want to put a barrier there so that I don't get involved with lots of human behavior stuff that makes it such that I don't have money later. So I think human behavior is a big, big component. You can know everything, but if you can't execute it because you're impatient, or you get scared, or you're into fear, then forget it. You're not going to get anywhere. And the other thing too is, I don't know if you talk about this much, but when we talk about money and money things, we make more money, right? When we're money is flow. Money is literally, it's called currency. So we have AC/DC current, in the electrical. So it has to flow, right? It has to flow. Same thing with money. Money's currency. Money has to flow. And so like spending money is helpful. You don't ever want to choke money. You never want to hoard money, right? You want to save based on a personal plan. You never want to choke it. You never want to hoard it. So you want to just be spending and let the currency flow. And like when you talk about money, your awareness of money and the elements of money and money ideas, money concepts and stuff increase, which then helps you to make more money and have more money. So I think there's also a big money mindset that needs to also be considered. So I think there's the basic education of finance, right, which is huge. Then you've got personal human, what did I call it? Human behavior, and then you have like money mindset stuff. So there's a lot of people who have major fear about money. Like I have known people who won't do anything. They'll basically work, but they won't pay any attention to their financial situation. Basically, bury their head in the sand, and that's not going to serve them well in the long run. So anyway,
yeah.
Money mindset. I think money mindset is like one of the most important things.
I think there's two misconceptions that average people who aren't thinking about this tend to make, and one is if they're not thinking about it at all and they just put their money in the bank and they're like, I'm not investing because I don't know what the hell to do with them investing, and even if I did, I've heard too many stories about people losing their money. Whether or not you intentionally invest your money in anything, you put it anywhere, you're in theory investing your money. Either you're investing your money in currency, which goes up and down. The dollar has serious inflation. So if you think there's going to be serious inflation and you have cash, the cash is going to be worth less tomorrow. And given the current state of the economy, inflation is booming, which means it's really not that great to have only cash. I'm sure you need a certain amount of cash. So that's one thing. It's like all your money's in dollars. Like all this world is. Paper money is a strange thing. It's very strange. Ever since we've been unlinked from like gold, from a hard currency, it's just, what is it? It's just the confidence. It's really just the confidence of all the whole world in the U.S. government and in the Reserve Bank, the Central Reserve, of like being able to pay their debts. And like that's sort of the main driver behind. Do we think that this is like dollar is going to exist? And if everyone thought no, the dollar's worthless, then all that cash you have is also worthless. And so you just invested in something that's worthless. Now, over the past certain amount of years, we've, which is interesting because I'm reading a book about this, but over the past handful of years, we've been alive on this earth. That's never been an issue. But I'm reading this book called New World Order by Ray Dalio. He takes a step back and looks at the cycles of empires and countries and how they do really well and then they crash, and then craziness happens and their reserve currency stops working, or it just stops being a reserve currency and the next currency takes over. So like before this, I believe the pound was the thing, and before that the Dutch were like had the reserve currency. So it's not forever. Just because we've been in this country and it's been strong doesn't mean in the next 30 years that the dollar is going to be worth what it is. And then two, the I think the perception of assets. Like if you were to ask someone what is your most valuable, what is your like biggest asset, and most people, if they have a house, they'd probably say their house. But to me, that's really not an asset. To me is something that gives you positive cash flow, and a house is really a money grabbing machine. There's a lot more inflow than outflow. If you think you're making money on a house after 30 years because you sold it more than you've purchased it, then you also have to take into account taxes and insurance and interest rates and fixes on the house and all those. Did that actually equate to an increase in when you sold it? Probably not that much, and if anything, it probably just equates out to being zero, I would assume. And if someone who works full time, 9 to 5 or something, and they have a house and they think their house is their greatest asset, really themselves are the greatest asset, because they're themselves are the ones that are bringing in a positive cash flow. They're the asset. They're making more money than they're spending. Hopefully, if they're shrewd people and they don't spend so much money. But their house isn't. The house is the one taking all the goddamn money. And so those are two things that I tend to think are bigger misconceptions when it comes. Then there's the whole thing of like, where do you invest your money? And it gets a lot more complicated where I don't even know, like, I don't even dabble in foreign investments. I don't dabble in like gold and silver and all that stuff. I tend to know the tax implications of how I'm setting up myself, and then the stock or bond mix, and then I leave it simple, because I read this book where like you can like put so much time and energy into something, like of picking individual investments. I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. But like the gain in that may not even outperform a stock index, because most don't. But even if it does the hours you spent in to justify the gain? Like maybe it's a tiny gain that like all those hours could have been working on a goddamn YouTube channel that could have been popping. Maybe one day someone's gonna really come on your YouTube channel, Lynn, and boom, it hits. But you would have never had that time if you were working on something that was a little gain. So I tend to focus on tax implications and then throw it in stocks. I know you can get way more complex in it, but I tend to not. I tend to simplify it. But those are the main misperceptions I usually see or would envision people making. I don't know if that's something you see.
Well, I want to say one thing first about what you said, which is that the idea about the dollar, the strength or weakness of the dollar. One of the things that yields our society to is things like cryptocurrency, right? Once we went away from the gold standard, that, even though that's now, could be like 30 or 40 years ago, right? Even though that's what yields this idea of digital currency, which is, anytime we swipe a debit card, we're basically engaging in digital currency. Anyway, that yields to cryptocurrency. So it's like a different kind of currency. Okay, so I wanted to say that.
I explained cryptocurrency as like the digital gold, because they could put a cap. Like the whole reason why gold is great, because like there's a limit. You can't just print it and then have inflation. So like crypto, I don't really know crypto well, but my understanding is that there's a limited amount, which means it's like a digital gold. In the future, maybe cryptocurrency is going to be taken over. Who knows?
Well, yeah, I mean, it'll yield to something else probably eventually. But the idea of having money that's based on nothing, like it's the same idea of currency. It's currency. It's something that we prescribe value on, right? Like it could be this. It could be this little sticky note. Like it really doesn't matter. If as a group we decide this has great value, we're going to trade sticky notes, then this becomes a currency, Yeah. I'll trade you one pink sticky note for 5 green sticky notes. It's the same exact concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a thing. And then the other thing is like, even the things that you said are the two things that you focus on that make it simple. What you said is not simple, right? Those are actually huge concepts. Like the people that I talk to and meet, they do not understand. If I say something like tax harvesting or tax implications or taxable assets, they don't know. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So even what you were saying, I try to keep it simple and just pay attention to tax. The common average person doesn't even know what that is. They wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even know what you're talking about related to that. So
yeah.
So even that is a little bit higher level than where a lot of people I think live.
That's true.
So my investing stuff, so 3 years ago, my husband and I decided to go on. Okay, so I have my retirement stuff, like my 401k, my Roth, my brokerage account, my qualified, my non-qualified, my taxable, my non-taxable, my all that kind of stuff. Like I have all that like set aside as part of my long-term stuff that I don't do anything with as far as trading, right? And then a few years ago, my husband and I decided to go on a big trip. It was going to be probably $15,000 to $20,000. This is before COVID. And so I took $1,000 to start saving up for it. And I've got it sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep adding to this. And I thought, well, I mean, if I got $1,000, I might as well put it in my brokerage account. So I put it in my brokerage account and then I'm like, wow, I mean, if I'm going to have it here, I might as well start investing it. So then I start investing it. So that first year I made $11,000. And then I'm like, okay, well, that went pretty well. I think I'll add some more money and do this again. So then the next year, so which would be last year, I made even more money, like 4 times as much money as I had the first year. So my husband has been wanting a new car and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that right now. I don't love like a car loan. And I don't love all that kind of stuff. And, you know, we're happy to drive older cars. And so anyway, I had that money and I'm like, well, I kind of have my trip paid for. Okay. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you can buy a car. So I took the money out and then he bought a car. And then now I'm in this year 3 of my thing. So my like trading stuff, my actual like stock picking trading stuff where I drill down to 3 or 4 stocks is just
seem to be
like,
good at it.
It's extra money. Yeah, I'm good at it. Yeah, I'm good at it. But I'm good at it because of years of experience, right? It's not like I just started today. And then so this year I'll see how I do this year. But so far this year I've made $1,700. So in January I made $1,700, which, you know, I mean, I cashed out and made $1,700. Not like my paper gain is $1,700. I like got $1,700. So anyway,
you seem to be good. You need to start a channel to tell your strategies. People would love that.
I don't know though, because I believe that's kind of risky because because the human element, like I have a certain personality.
You're saying if too many people watch it, then they'll all do it and then the price will go up?
Oh, no. But just like I told you the story about my friend who I said, oh, well, you know, when butter's on sale by 20, she's like, yeah, I would never wait for butter to be on sale. Well, if that's your attitude towards stocks, you're not going to wait for it to be on sale either. So you're going to buy high. And then when the stock goes down, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all this money. And then they sell, right? Like you can't do that. So a lot of it has so much to do with human behavior, I think. So I could tell people how I do it, right? But it doesn't mean.
But that's the thing. I think that YouTube will have a higher number of people who are a little bit more sophisticated. And even if they're not sophisticated, they're willing to learn, even though they're less sophisticated. I do think the finance stuff will find interested people. If you all out of all those channels, I would say the finance one would pop, in my opinion. Who knows? My opinion might be worth nothing.
So that's the other thing I was going to say about the personal finance stuff is I would hate for anyone to lose a ton of money and feel like it was my fault. You know, like they all say, you know, this is for informational purposes only, or no, entertainment. This is for entertainment purposes only. They all say that, and yet, you know, people are probably trying to implement some of the things that they're saying. It'd be hard for somebody to.
There are some things though, like there's some things that you can talk about that are not, like if you say buy this stock at this time, then someone might be like, are you? I lost all my damn money, like, or it's general advice, like for example, like how I would think about it is instead of you telling a specific stock, but maybe it's like, how do you know when a stock is low? Because there's a couple ways to do it. It's like, are we looking at charts and just, or are we like doing some kind of real like math to figure it out? And if you do, what is your strategy, Lynn? You made $50,000 in the past 2 years just picking stocks for fun. What was
picking stocks for fun.
Picking stocks for serious, whatever the hell it was, but you made money. So like, what is the exact methodology for knowing if a stock is low? Then they can look at, you know, they can do their own thing, but you always preface it with like, look, it's a erratic thing. Like the stocks go up and down. And that's why you try to think a little bit more long-term, but here's my strategy. It worked for me, blah, blah, blah. I think that would, I don't know. I think that would work. But if you tell them someone specifically what to do, then that might be a little bit of an issue because then you're like being a financial advisor.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, like when I was of the scripts that I wrote, I did very basic stuff like learn how to read your paycheck, your pay stub, because a
Even
lot of
that could
people,
be cool.
yeah, because a lot of people don't realize how much important information is just there. And like, what is a Roth? What's a Roth IRA? What's that even mean? How do you set it up? Where do you set it up? All that. I just think there's just so little basic financial education out there. And like, the kids, they take 1/4 of a thing called like financial education or whatever. And it's not enough, like, we need to be good with our family, right? Our little family. And then we need to be good with our job. But we also need to be good with our own personal finance. And a lot of people omit this part, and it's a problem because we're in charge of our own finances, and we don't get the public education for that at all. We don't. And a lot of families don't do that. Like, there's a lot of families who the children don't even know how much the parents make. Like, they have no idea. They don't know what their budget is or what they're doing or what they can afford or what they can't afford or what they want to spend their money on or what they don't want to spend their money on, or so I feel like there's a lot of basic stuff. If I were to do a channel, that I would cover very basic about money stuff.
I think it would work. That's why I harp on reading. Go buy a book for $10 and learn this stuff. That's why reading is so beautiful. You can learn so much.
And I'm a huge reader, right? I love reading, but not everybody is. That's human behavior
I know.
issues.
That's why I'm saying if you don't like to read,
they consume media, right? But it's not. They consume entertainment media, right? Like, there's a lot of people who do 20 and 30 hours a week of entertainment media. Could you imagine if they did reading information content instead? It would be huge, but people don't. And so it seems like, for me, I think you've got to focus on where a person's at. And where they're at is they're not necessarily looking to increase their education.
Maybe not. That's why I have this channel, Lynn. That's why I bring you on. That's why I talk about this stuff, because I want people to read and learn more. You can change your life. How's that, Lynn?
That's perfect. I love it.
That's what people need to be doing.
That's right.
All right, we're coming up on the hour, Lynn. I appreciate you coming on here. Is there anything else you want to say? Where can people find you on the internet? Like YouTube
you mean
channel?
Like on my it's called my main channel, my weight loss channel is called Lynnventure.
Lynnventure.
Nice. And I want to say a couple of the things that I say all the time on my channel, because I really believe them, is that all of our efforts matter. So in this idea of money, any effort you make to be more financially savvy matters. Even the smallest effort would matter. Any effort you make on your health matters. Any effort you make on your mindset. So mindset is hugely important to me. For a couple of years, I used to do a power word every day, where we want to have an opportunity, like, say for today, maybe our power word is, well, I already used strong word, so I'll just use that again, strong, right? I am strong. I am strong enough to overcome some of my human frailties. I am strong enough to be able to change the direction of my life. And at any moment, in any day, we can change the course of our day. And I really believe that.
I love it. Listen to the power words of Lynn.
That's right.
What she's talking about.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. I appreciate you coming on here. Have a good day. I know this was early, so thank you for hopping on here early, and have a beautiful Sunday.
Thank you.
Yep. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.